Today's presentation will be on comparative anatomy between a rat and a frog. Your presenters are Tanya Calederon,
Chang,
Gian, Alba,
and Roselyn Hernandez.
An introduction into our study is that it will focus on the rat species Rattus norvegicus and the frog species Rana ferreri. Both of these organisms will be compared for possible evolutionary likeness by the use of multiple methods, which are a dissection study, use of taxonomic groups, and comparing the organism similarities.
So next up we have is a table of contents. We'll be providing the animal background, the rat anatomy, frog anatomy, and anatomy comparisons. So to begin with, what are frogs and rats? What are rats? Rats Rats are small or medium sized rodents. They have long tails and they are clearly not a mouse. And the next to begin is what are frogs? Frogs are small sized amphibians. They have long legs and they are also not a mouse or a rat. So next up we have is the animal background, which is taxonomy.
The Rattus norvegicus phylogenetic tree would start with, at the highest taxonomic level, Eukarya, its kingdom being Animalia, Chordata being its phylum, Mammalia being its class, Rodentia being the order, and Rattus being its genus. For our frog background, top to bottom, we can see their taxonomic names are their kingdom as Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Amphibia, order Anura, family Ranidae, genus Lithobates, and their species is L. ferreri.
Roles of the ecosystem and habitats. Well, where do rats live? Well, rats can be found in meadows, forests, and of course, cities. And we can't forget the most iconic place where you find them, the trash. Now, how do they interact with their ecosystems? Rats are generalists, which means they don't specialize in anything at all. They just kind of live about and do their stuff. As you can probably tell, they thrive in humid environments, so like your house, for example, or the dumpster out back. They use resources very quickly due to how often they need to breed, and this also makes them displace and outcompete a whole lot of other species. Now, what are the abiotic and biotic factors for rats? Abiotic factors, being the non-living parts, are, well, natural resources, temperatures, weather, the nutrients of the soil, and of course sunlight. Biotic factors would be like predation, their different food sources, competition from other rats, and of course just breeding preferences. Now, how do these rats interact with other animals? Well, as you can tell by these beautiful images, cats, birds, a bald eagle if you will, would eat or exterminate rats. And rats also do have the tendency to give a whole lot of diseases to humans, such as the Black Plague.
Ecological habitats of the forest grass frog include their regional areas, which span from Mexico through most Central America, including Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. They're also known to be in multiple biomes that have some form of a source of permanent water, including shrublands, wetlands, freshwater biomes, as well as city water channels. In their abiotic factors, we can see their water source as an abiotic importance, along with temperature and weather. Their main biotic factors would be their relations in their ecosystem, including their predators as well as prey abundance available to them. In their environmental relations, we see that their common predators range from humans to most birds as well as snakes, with their common prey being small insects, worms, slugs, and snails.
The mating patterns and behaviors.
Well, the mating patterns for rats is pretty simple. First, the male sniffs the female rat. I know, it's kind of weird, but that's just how they do stuff. Next, the female decides to just dance and hop around. I guess a sign of consent for rats. And then the male just starts mounting the female. The female ends up getting impregnated. No extra details are necessary. And boom, pops out a newborn rat that grows and restarts the cycle all over again. Now, some behaviors for rats. Well, a lot of behaviors for rats include grooming, digging, exploring, nesting, and of course, marking stuff with their iconic scent. Rats usually rubs their scent on things to mark it as theirs, kind of like just marking it as their territory. Also, rats are very nocturnal, which means they are the most active at night, but is also where they're the most terrifying to run into.
Next up we have is the mating patterns for frogs. So frogs are undergoing sexual reproduction. The way they have a mating call is by doing a lobster frown for about 1.5 to 2 seconds long, and they usually mate around the night. But however, when they usually mate is during the late winter and early spring, when the season changes from dry to wet season. And then, next thing now, frogs requires permanent pools for reproduction as well. The behaviors for these frogs, they're usually sitting near a water edge or shore either during the evening or nighttime, and they usually adapt easily near agriculture lands and water protected systems.
Rat anatomy. Rats have a complex system of internal organs that are responsible for functions such as digestion, respiration, circulation, and reproduction. Starting from the top of the rat, we see the esophagus, which the food would go down and into the trachea, which is responsible for the transportation of air into the lungs of the rat. They're both in there. It's hard to see them both. They would transport that into the lungs of the rat, which is visible on the left side here. A little below the heart, the thing that looks like a thin layer of tissue, is the rat's diaphragm that separates the thoracic and abdominal cavities of the rat. It's an involuntary muscle that contracts and relaxes so as to control the movement of air into and out of the lungs, and is responsible for the rat's breathing capabilities, and without it, it wouldn't be able to survive. Adjacent to the diaphragm, the dark-colored organ is the rat's liver, which produces bile that helps in digesting fat. It also stores glycogen that can be used when needed for energy. And another function of the rat's liver is to transform waste into less harmful substances. The little protrusion we see right next to the liver is the rat's stomach, which acts as food storage. It can break down food and also the digestion of protein to which intestines below the stomach receive, and where the food absorption and chemical digestion occurs. Now onto the parts hidden behind the intestines. From the top, we see the spleen. The purpose of the spleen in rats is for blood infiltration and for immunity. Right below it, sticking out a little under the kidney, under the spleen, is the kidney. They have two, the same as humans, but we don't see the second one in this picture. The purpose of the kidney is the maintenance of water and electrolyte homeostasis. The organ below the kidney is the rectum, which temporarily stores feces until they are ready to be expelled from the rat's body. It can absorb excess water and electrolytes, which further solidifies the waste. This part at the bottom here is its penis, which is used for reproductive purposes.
Next up is the frog anatomy. Okay, to begin with is we have the liver, heart, stomach, gallbladder, intestines, colon, and kidney. So the liver is the red and blue. The liver is for the rat produce the liquid that breaks down the food that he eats. Next up is the heart. The heart is a blue heart, which is for the frog to pump oxygen to breathe. Next up is the stomach. The stomach is a yellow whiz that is below the liver. This is where the frog stores its food and mixes its enzyme to begin dissection. The next up we have is the gallbladder. The gallbladder is needed to store the bile produced by the liver. And then next up we have is the intestines, the principal organ of dissection and absorption of dissection food. And then next up is we have the kidney. It's a small and yellow on the bottom right left below the stomach. And then next we have is the colon, which absorbs water from the food.
The systems for Rattus norvegicus and Rana ferreri. Here are the rat systems displayed that we talked about earlier for rat anatomy. They have a circulatory system, a respiratory system, an excretory system, a urinary system, reproductive, digestive, and nervous.
And the next up is we have the frog system, which is the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the reproductive system, the nervous system, the digestive system, external system. So the reproductive system has lungs and skin, while the circulatory system has heart. The reproductive system has ovaries. Nervous system has muscle. Digestive system has intestines, liver, stomach. Excretory system has the kidney.
Our last section is on the rats and frogs' anatomical similarities and differences. Rats and frogs, for both of our specimens, we were able to see that they were male and that their similar systems included digestive, circulatory, urinary, and skeletal systems. In their differences, we can mainly see that rats have smaller hind limbs, and in the respiratory system, they only have lungs, while frogs have both lungs and gills, with their lungs being significantly smaller than that of a rat. Rats also have hind legs that are only used for walking, while frogs' hind legs are mainly used for jumping. The difference between their reproductive systems are mainly due to the fact that rats will have internal fertilization with the use of sperm and ovaries, while frogs have external fertilization where females and males both excrete eggs and sperms out into the environment. And their last difference can be seen by rats having fur, while frogs have a moist glandular skin that is permeable in water. By looking at their phylogenetic tree, we can trace back their most recent common ancestor. Both of our organisms' phylum is Chordata, while the rat's class is Mammalia and the frog's class is Amphibia. It can be hypothesized that this was likely due to the frogs either experiencing a great environmental change for survivability or prey availability that caused them to develop a different respiratory and reproductive system that focus on their semi-aquatic life.
In conclusion, rats and frogs both have similar organ systems and basic physical traits. The different environments that both the organisms lived in resulted in their different adaptations and differences in organs. For frogs, their organs accommodate their amphibian nature, whereas rats don't need to do so because they walk on land. Here are our sources. Thank you.